Hello everybody, and welcome to another bit of training, another short training video. This time I'm going to be talking about the complications of using Twitter, the main, if you like, vanilla Twitter application, and how you can actually get far more leverage if you upgrade to something like Hootsuite. There are other products available which you can use, but personally I quite like the simplicity and the straightforwardness of Hootsuite. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk through some of the issues that you get to when you start building up a follower list. So I'm just going to spend a bit of time talking about that. When you build up followers on Twitter, now I don't have as many as a lot of people, but basically I've got circa 5,000 followers. The problem is that your home stream becomes completely unusable because the tweets are just whizzing through, and actually you can't do, you just miss tweets by people. You just can't follow it. So that's where Twitter lists become absolutely paramount. And the other day when I was talking about this, I was talking about the concept of CRM, contact resource management. Now what Twitter do is they provide you with the ability to create lists. Those lists could be groups of people that you know. So when you follow someone, you can put them into a list. And what that does is it groups people who are talking about similar things in the same place. And then you can go to that list and you can see the tweets from the people just in that list. So that's a way of, if you like, screening out all the other noise that's going on and just focusing in on the key people that are in the groups. You know, I don't know how many lists it is, 1,000 lists, way too many lists. And they used to have a limitation on how many people could be in that list, but now I think that's unlimited as well. So one of the key points about this is you don't have to follow someone to put them in a list. Okay, so I had a list which I call my probation list. So someone might have followed me. I then put them in a list, and I'm watching the list, and I'm watching the people and the tweets that they're putting in. And if the tweets are good quality, useful information, I'm engaging with that person, then I can follow that person back, and we then have that mutual reciprocal following. So that's a really important point. You don't have to follow somebody to pop them in the list. What does happen though is that they get told that you've put them in a list and what the name of that list is. So you might want to have a little bit of a think about what you're calling those lists. So people I don't want to talk to, putting them in that list is going to have probably repercussions. So you might want to think about that. Lists have two types. There's a private list, which is a list that you alone can see, and there are public lists which enable other people to search for and follow your lists. All right, so they become subscribers to your list. So I've got a list that I follow, which is a news aggregator. Somebody has compiled a list of all the different news companies around the world, and if you follow that list, you're going to see all the tweets from all the people in there. So actually it saves you a whole load of time because there's other people curating information, useful people who are putting them in lists, so you don't have to worry about doing it yourself. So that's quite an interesting trick. And what it does is it instantly makes Twitter more useful. All right, but there are other things you can do as well. So let's have a quick look at some examples. Right, so here's some lists. I've just taken this from my list of Twitter lists that I've got. So I've created a list for Watford tweeters. Now, if you know me, you know I live in Watford, passionate about the town. That's another story. But I've put all of the people that I'm following that are in Watford or close to Watford in a Watford tweeters list. So people often say to me, Chris, you really know what's going on in Watford, but it's only because I'm following about 350 people who tweet and are in Watford, and of course Ez is telling me what's going on in Watford all the time. So it's a bit of a cheat. I'm a little bit being a bit cheeky there, but actually I've compiled this list, and if you wanted to follow and see what's going on in Watford, you could follow that list and you'd find out exactly the same as I do. PWI, this is people with influence. It's a bit cryptic, but I don't necessarily want the people who I'm putting in there to go around with a big ego saying, oh, look, he's put me in that people with influence one. So, and they're people who I'm following on a global level. So they could be anybody anywhere in the world who I feel has got something of value, and I go and have a look at that stream fairly regularly, and I pick up really useful information, which I can sometimes reshare on the Link for Growth forum. I might put it out as a post on Google Plus or post it on Facebook, but it's normally something of real value and use. So if I'm pulling up information or stories and putting them on the forum, very often I will have sourced those from what people have been talking about in this group. This one, I was setting that up because I know a few people who tweet in Northampton. We're opening up that area in Northampton, so I can find out and engage with people on Twitter about what's going on in Northampton, and then start to steer them towards the new Link for Growth groups that we're growing there. Local people with influence, they're people who are like the newspaper reporters, people who are working for large organisations, maybe the Mayor of Watford, the MP of Watford, other councillors, people who are local and are able to communicate and influence things. So, for example, Vibe 1076 Watford Football Club, people like that in that feed there. And their news feeds, I've talked about this already, these are owned by other people, but you can follow them. So the Watford Tweeters one's owned by me, but you can follow it. A news feed that's been compiled by somebody with all the news across the world, all being fed into one stream, which I follow, which is fantastic. And then, of course, the Link for Growth community. This is really important for me, because when people in Link for Growth are talking, and they're in Link for Growth and they're tweeting, I would miss their tweets, but they're in a list, so I can respond, and I can always be in touch with the people who are in Link for Growth. So if you've got a tribe of people and you don't want to miss their tweets, compile a list, stick them in it, and then you can watch that stream and you can watch that list and you can participate, and you're not going to miss out on things they're talking about that you might want to respond to. So there are a few of the ideas behind some of my lists. Okay, now I'm going to talk now about Hootsuite, because Hootsuite allows you to do a huge amount with those lists, a lot more than the Twitter vanilla application does. Okay, and so Hootsuite is a method, it's a tool which basically uses all the information that's being posted onto Twitter, but it gives it to you in a much more digestible way, so that you can really start to engage. And it's about increasing engagement. Remember that Twitter is the conversation of the internet, and what Hootsuite does is it allows you to harvest that information and display it in a way that suits you, so you are more effective with the Twitter platform. Okay, so Hootsuite and Twitter, they go together. So you've got 10 columns of streams. So if you can imagine Twitter, you go and you look at one list and you're looking at that list, right? What we can do with Hootsuite is we can have 10 streams on the screen at one time. Okay, you have to have a pretty big screen for that, but you can have like 5 or 6 on display at any one time, and then you can just scroll across to the others that are behind there. So the first 5 or 6 can be really useful to you. So for example, my first stream has got @ mentions, right? So if anybody mentions me, that's my first list. So because the first thing, because they're ones I've got to respond to immediately. People are talking about what I'm doing or what they're doing, and they want me to see it. So they've mentioned me, so I want to respond to that straight away. So that's my first one. The next one I've got in the list is, I haven't put it up on here, but it's a list. It's the Link for Growth community list. So that's my second one, because the people in Link for Growth are important to me. So I want to be able to reshare their content, retweet stuff, comment on what they're doing. It's important to me to be able to do that. The third one is a search term. In fact, the search term that I'm looking for in my third column is hashtag L4G or Link for Growth. Any tweet that's got either of those two, so it's that or that, any tweet with either of those two is going to come in my third column. I want to know who's talking about Link for Growth. I want to know who's talking about L4G, which is the hashtag that we use to tell other people in Link for Growth we want them to retweet it. They're really important ones, so they're in my third column. And then I've got a whole mishmash, all right? I've also got L4G Mingle set up as a stream, because when we do the mingle, which is on the first Monday evening, 7:30 to 9:30, we follow this hashtag, and anybody that's put that into their tweet is part of that mingle, and that's really useful. So these are the lists. Search terms. You can have something and something and something. something and or something, this or that, so any of them. So lots of different combinations, but they're really, really useful. You can put a list in, like I have, the L4G community list. So you can create a stream of information, 10 of these going across the screen of information. So you can start to see now, you could have the news feeds on there. You could have the L4G community on there. You could have a search term for Watford, networking or something like that. All my app mentions, you can start to see that it's all being delivered to me in one screen. I can just watch it like a bit like I guess they do in the financial markets in the city where they're looking at all the different trade options and stuff. It's exactly like that. You're designing these threads, are supplying you with the information that you want, and you're listing them in this. It's amazing. But you can have more than 10 because you can have another tab and another tab and another tab. You can have 100 different streams supplying you with information that you might want to be working on, right? So really important. Geocoded, right? So you can actually say, give me everybody that's within a 10-mile radius who's tweeting. You can do that. So 5 miles. So you can start to find all the local people. This is really powerful stuff. Set that up and it's a thread, and everybody within 5 miles who's tweeting, they're in there. They're very close to you. You can go and see those people. Hashtags we've already talked about. That's a search term in effect, but it's got the hashtag in the front of it. So this is really, really important. All right, and this is why Hootsuite is massively important. Right? So what does it look like? Well, basically, Hootsuite looks like this. So what I've got on my first one, I've got everybody that's mentioning at my app mentions. So anybody that's mentioned me in a tweet, I'm getting that in this column. I can respond to it immediately. The second column has got my L4G community in it, all right? So that's really powerful. Everybody in Link for Growth that's talking, I can reply to them. I'm going to see their tweets. I'm going to see what they're talking about. L4G search term and Link for Growth, all right? That's in my third column here. My fourth column might be the Watford people with influence or my Watford tweeters, all right? So I've got them all here, and the information is being fed through to me constantly all the time. I leave one screen open all the time just with this in, because I can just dip back in, I can see your stuff, I can respond immediately. Yeah, there are stories about people in Link for Growth who've caught a tweet, someone local talking about they need an accountant. She's an accountant, she pops in there, I can help you, business straight away. This is an amazing tool. You've got to check it out. All right, so so it's free, this thing. All right, it's free. You know, you can put your 4 or 5 of your social networks in. You can drag Facebook into it. You can drag LinkedIn into it. You can drag. You can't do Google Plus, not with this, but you can do Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Bring them into this and start playing with it. And Twitter, of course, many Twitter accounts. So let's talk about why it's important. First of all, you can create a list with a search term which enables you to find the people who are talking about what you want to talk about. So if you're, I used this example the other day, if you're a quilter, you could have quilting or patchworking or sewing, for example. People talking about what you're doing, all right? That's really important, okay? Your choice, your topic. And you can have lots of different search terms and play around with them. It's really easy. It allows you to keep engaged with your tribe. The L4G community allows me to respond to important people to me. All right, that's what that's powerful for. All right, it's a CRM system, so you can start to create these lists. You can put people into buckets. I'm not a big fan of buckets, but you need to be able to manage the data that you're getting. If you're not managing your contacts, you don't have a business. It's as simple as that. You really need to take that seriously. Twitter allows you to do that. LinkedIn does too. Well, in fact, all the platforms allow you to create lists. And it allows you to expand your connections, all right? Because now you're talking to people who are talking about the things you want to talk to. You're keeping people engaged. You're using your CRM system. You're using the lists properly. You can start to expand the connections, but expand the connections of the people that you want to engage with. Otherwise, it's just a mess out there, okay? So that's all I want to really talk about. We've got Hootsuite workshop within Link for Growth, so you can just pop along to Link for Skills and you can sign up for that. All very cost-effective, affordable training, but you'll learn a lot more about Hootsuite and all the detail behind it and how you can implement it. So just thought it's worth mentioning that. this goes a lot. This is a second one. I did a Twitter one earlier. This is a second one about Hootsuite. They go together. Do watch the first one if you haven't seen it, and then come back and watch this one. Okay, so that's it. Thanks very much, and join me next time.